Hey everybody, Don Dabney, Left Coast Classics, and another. I just can't believe I keep getting these, just one great car after another. This one found me, like most of them do, and I couldn't buy it fast enough. So, very cool, 68 Mustang, 289 4-speed, 68,000 original miles, California car, kind of, and I'll explain that in a moment. But basically, this is a really original one-owner car, and we bought it from a 92-year-old woman who worked for the State Department, and she worked in different embassies in the State Department. So the story I got from her old friend, who's known her for decades, is that she was quite the looker in the day, and kind of a muscle car kind of girl. So she had a Sunbeam Tiger, and it was being transported, and it fell off the transport. So she, had to buy a new car. So at the time, she was working out of the embassy in Mexico City, and so she ordered this car out of New Jersey. And if you check the DSO code, it was for export. That's how this car was built, for export. It's a very unusual DSO code. And then the car was shipped straight to Mexico City, where it was with her down there for a brief time before they reassigned her to Guatemala. So then the car was again picked up from Mexico City, sent to Guatemala, and she worked out of Guatemala for I think a couple of years. And then after that, that's still like probably around 1970-ish, the car gets shipped back to Washington, D.C. to the State Department, where she moves back to Washington, D.C. And you'll see in the right rear window, there's a sticker for the Capitol Police State Department, like the parking garage. That was her sticker. And when she got it back to Washington, D.C., it had virtually no miles on it. She really just never drove it. And then when it was in Washington, D.C., we understand it just kind of like sat in the parking garage, and she didn't really drive it because I think they would get driven most places. So by the end of but sometime in the early 70s, the car gets shipped back to her apartment high-rise in San Francisco, where it's lived ever since. And so it's pretty much been kind of a grocery getter in San Francisco. And so we got a call. She's a little older now, can't really drive, and we find the car in the parking garage with 5 layers of dust on it. And anyway, that's a whole other story. But I couldn't believe we found it, and I couldn't believe it had a 4-speed. I couldn't believe it was one owner, and it was just 68,000 miles. So the car is cool. I drove it back from the city, and though it had some ancillary items like a little bit of deferred maintenance, it was actually really well cared for. Everything in the car worked. All we did was we replaced a temperature sender. That stopped working. We put new brakes and calipers on the front. I put on a new set of tires. And we just gave the car really good detailing. It's really in good shape, and it drives beautifully. So let me fire it up, and I'll take you for a spin. Got a ton of power, no funny sounds, no smoking issues. It drives like you would expect a really well-maintained 68,000 mile car to drive. The handling's tight, the suspension is great. A really cool preservation piece. Oh, the wipers, heater, radio, horn, blinkers, everything's working. So there's nothing in this car that doesn't work the way it's supposed to, which is cool. Car's just totally stock. It has the stock original exhaust on it. The undercarriage is just fantastic. It's what you'd expect, 68,000 miles. Just solid, nice, clean. Just running along. We're 65 miles an hour now. Just not an issue. Very nice to drive. Drives straight. Downshifting feels fantastic. And the blinker indicators up in the hood are working great too. Anyway, that's it. Just such a cool car. Whoever gets this car is going to be, I'm just stoked to get such an original one owner California car with an asterisk, because for a little bit of time, obviously, it wasn't here. But what an interesting story, and what a cool lady. We have a picture of her with the car, the way we found it. And I would tell you a couple more things we did. One thing that we weren't really happy about, but it did have like a consumer level respray like in the 80s. And so it was kind of like, well, what do we do with that? I mean, it was originally Wimbledon white, and it was repainted white, and it really wasn't the greatest paint job. And the trim, because she lived in a kind of subterranean parking kind of right near the San Francisco Bay, a lot of the trim was just kind of pitted and dull looking. So I had to make a judgment call on what I wanted to do with this car. And what I ultimately decided is that I would replace like 90% of the trim on it and really freshen it up, and that while we had that trim off, we would just polish it, detail it, get the paint super clean. And it really, you know, it really worked. I didn't put the stock hubcaps back on. It had the real little ones, and I just personally thought it'd look cooler with some different hubcaps. And you could do whatever you want to it. We're going to include all the original trim and hubcaps if you want to have them with the car, which I think it'd be kind of cool to keep them with the car. But otherwise, it's cool because you can just like, you get the car, it just instantly looks good. You can be proud of it. You can enjoy it. It shines when the sun shines on it, and you can feel good about it right off the get-go. But it would be a car that, you know, would be great to keep the miles a little low and keep it pretty original, you know, because you just don't see too many of these like this anymore. All right, so anyway, we want to invite you to check out our cool YouTube page. We have like hundreds and hundreds of just really cool car videos of a lot of interesting cars. And then we have, you know, we're on Twitter and all the usual, Facebook, Instagram, or we have a great website, leftcoastclassics.com, and you can check me out on 2 episodes of Wheeler Dealers on the Velocity channel with my pal Mike Brewer. The most recent one is season 15, episode 8. Like, remember what they are. I think the last one was season 11 or 12, but I'm kind of thinking it was 11. That's also episode 8. So check us out up there. If you want to see the car, if you want more information, just give me a call anytime. My number's on the listing. Thanks for checking it out. All right, let's head underneath the Mustang 68. You'll see it's just, it's got surface rust obviously, but there's no rot, no rust. Just very solid, super original. And you can see the primer from the factory under there still, which is cool. Take a look up here inside the inner rear quarters. Good. The original gas tank. Get up there. We checked all the wheel wells, they're nice. Yeah, it looks like the original exhaust, I think. Yep, that looks like the original exhaust and still fine. Getting a little old, but working. So the car's just got really good bones. Okay, I know everybody likes the magnet test, so let's start at the right rear quarter. A little surface stuff right there on the door, but it's not rot or anything, so. Yeah, there's no filler over here.
right there. Pretty typical. And over here. All right, now we know on this quarter there was a very small amount of body work done, and you can see it from the inside of the trunk. We have a still somewhere, and it's mainly was right up in here. And there's just kind of some crappy body work, to be honest, but there's not much filler on it. It's not horrible. It's like, you know, you get up close and you can see it. Most people aren't going to notice it, but you need to know it's there. And that's, yeah, I don't want to say that's it, but that's kind of looking like it's about it. This quarter is great, doesn't show any damage on the inside. And give you a little comparison, you can see the magnet just grabs a little quicker to grab on this one. Again, we'll come over here and you can kind of compare the noise. It's mostly just kind of in there, like more like right around here. So there you go.